So Nico, you had a little French trip quite recently, and that went
Yes.
well, didn't it?
Yeah, it went unbelievably well, to be fair. So it was a little pay lake in France, Etang La Tannerie, I believe it was called. Lovely little place, 2.5 acres, one swim for 2 anglers. And yeah, it's not something that I usually do. I don't really tend to go for the pay lakes in France. I do a lot more of the public waters in Europe, Belgium, France. And that's kind of like my go-to for my European angling. But me and a friend thought it'd be nice, go and have a bit of luxury fishing as such. They had a cabin there, showers, cookers, all that lot. So, you know, a bit of luxury compared to slumming it on the bank. So yeah, that was nice in its own, you know. Got into the fish quite quickly, actually. Yeah, I think I'd pinged a rod out while we were setting up, and I managed a 17 pounder within like 2-3 minutes of being there. So that was a good sign. And then just kind of, we was bait boating them to the far margin, just under the tips of the trees. And just was slowly picking them off throughout the week. Doing pretty well. I was using a mixture of the Crustasia criticals, hook baits, and matching pop-ups on hinges. Both were doing equally well, but after a few days I started to notice a pattern in the bites. So I was fishing one rod, a fourth rod, way out left, but it was my main 3 rods. It'd be the left hand rod first thing, then the middle rod, then the right hand rod going into the evening.
Sort of fish and moving to an
Yeah, they was follow the sun.
Is that going into deeper water for the night, do you think? Or?
No, they was just following the sun hitting that bank, and as it creeped round, they was just moving up with the sun. I think we was only the second group on there for the year, so they hadn't quite, well, the trip before they hadn't quite woken up, so I think they'd woken them up for us a little bit. They were starting to get around, and like I said, I noticed a pattern in the bites, and I had a fourth rod out way left, which hadn't done anything for a good, I think about 4 days in by now. Still hadn't done anything, so I thought I'm going to leapfrog a rod to try and bring this one into the action as such. This time I decided to go for one of my custom hook baits. I've got loads of faith in, been doing me wonders everywhere. I went for a white one instead of the matching sort of approach, and landed a late record mirror at £52.14, I believe.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I think between the two of us we had 24 fish. I had 50, I had a cracking 47 common on my 3rd day, which that was my trick done for me. But I had 3 other 40s, a good handful of like mid to high 30s, and a few 20s, couple under.
Would you say, because obviously there's a lot of people out there sort of don't like bait boats. I mean, I've got one recently just for the winter, and a well-known angler told me I was cheating, which I respect his opinions. However, I couldn't have caught what I caught if I didn't have it. So, I mean, could you have got to those fish by casting, or would it just be dangerous?
Maybe a couple of spots that I had fish from. I probably could have casted with a bit of persistence, you know.
But you'd be crushing leads on the heads, I suppose, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how well they would have took to being casted at.
Of course,
They was quite buried under the trees. They was probably 2 foot off the bank.
And trying to get back at night's stressful as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's always one of those things. I think it's very easy for someone to say you're cheating using a boat, but then you could use a baiting pole, you could weigh the bait, you could roll the boat, and the bait. So
I mean, I'd like to think that I still would have picked a couple off had I not had the bait boat, because I was having them some like in front of the trees, some just under the tips of the trees, some buried right in the trees. It was kind of, I think, just the baiting approach, I think, was more the key to it.
I mean, you could have probably brought out the snags more if you.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then
So
that's where they want to be, I suppose.
I thought with the water still quite cold and them just waking up, not seeing any pressure for a little while, I thought there's no point just filling it in like a lot of people do in France. You know, little like big fish, lots of them. I think people tend to just pile it in thinking that they need to, whereas I went more for the approach of just fish for a bite.
Yeah.
I was using a lot of crumb that I mixed with stick mix and DNA, with literally 4 or 5 boilies in each. Literally a handful of bait, or a gobful for a big fish like that.
If somebody was watching this and didn't understand when you say you were fishing a bit of crumb and didn't want to fill it in, why to somebody who doesn't understand what you're... I mean, I know where you're going with this, but for somebody who didn't understand, why did you put crumb in?
It's a bit like attracting without feeding as such, so they'll be drawn to the area because of the smell and the attraction that's pumping out. But with regards to actual food items that they can pick up and eat, there wasn't many, maybe a couple of boilies and my hook bait.
Your hook's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. So there's less items for them. Like I didn't want them to come in, pick up a couple of boilies and then do the offs. I wanted them to come in, rub around, and then get nailed as such.
And the DNA liquid as well obviously repels the flavours because of the oils, and it sends out a good food signal. But I guess as well, if you're using crumb, that is going to leach into the substrate as well and enhance what you've just said in terms of keeping them in the area. Because if there's no food items, there's still a central. So I guess that as well worked in your favour.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that,
it.
I used the liquids. Especially because I was mixing the crumb with stick mix, it's quite light. So I was mixing it with the liquids to allow it to make it to the bottom. Because otherwise, if you put just a handful of stick mix in the edge, it will just disperse. Half of it will float as such. And I wanted to get it down there. And like you say, it will work its way into the substrate. And it will always be pumping out attraction and flavour. Not necessarily loads of stuff there for them to eat, but it'll keep them grubbing around because they can smell something's there, or they know that there's some sort of food there. Keep them grubbing around a little bit longer.
And you said about you changed over to a white one, and that brought you the big one.
Yeah, what made me decide to do that, I don't know. I think everything that I was trying was working. So the matching pop-ups had done me a good few. The matching critical hook baits had done me a good few, and I thought, let's just swap it up a bit, see if we could get something different to happen, sort of thing. So decided to put a white one on. This time I didn't put crumb in, I just went for straight out the bag boilies. I think about 5 or 6 around it, so they weren't coated, they weren't smothered in DNA or anything, they didn't have no stick mix or crumb over them, just straight out the bag boilies in the hopper with my white pop-up, and yeah, that done me lake record.
I mean, it's impossible to say if you'd have caught it any other way, and I guess probably you had fed the swim and built it up enough, and you probably would have done, but do you think, age-old question really, do you think it's the flavour or the colour or both or neither?
I'm not. See, I've got nothing but faith in that squid and octopus flavour. It's done me wonders over the years. I use it all through the year. Winter, it does me really well, especially. White, I mean, it wasn't really. It's not like it was a crystal clear lake. It was really murky. It was like, I think there was a lot of iron in that region, so it was like a darky browny colour water. So it weren't clear as such. So I'm not sure if it would have been as visual as you think it would be, being a white one. But I don't know. They just work, don't they? White pop-ups. I mean, I do toy around with other colours, pink occasionally, but white is my go-to. If I'm using a bright one, then white is my go-to. So back to your question, it's hard to tell whether it was flavour or colour. I'm hoping combination of both,
I was
really.
going to say, I feel like the flavour would bring them to the area, because if that flavour's cutting through, they can smell it, they'll come in.
Of course.
And then the white pop-up is more blatant and a bit of a sort of lure, if you like.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be the one they pick off first.
Yeah, it certainly will stick out more than a washed out crustasia like what I was feeding.
And
So
were you fishing all pop-ups?
no. So it was. I had 2 rods on the critical wafters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and 2 rods on pop-ups, and I was like swapping them about throughout the trip as such.
Was one particular one better than the other, or?
No, I think it was near on 50-50, give or take 1 or 2 fish.
Yeah.
I started mainly with the wafters. I caught my majority of the first amount of fish was on the wafters. My mate was fishing solely pop-ups and he was catching a few.
Yeah.
So I started to introduce the pop-ups and they started doing really well. And then after that just trying different bits just to see what else worked, what didn't work as such.
I think I always feel that there's an element that some fish like a pop-up and some don't, and I think sometimes by having a mixture of different things, if you've got a pop-up and a wafter out there, you've got a chance of catching 2 different types of fish. Not necessarily types, but I think fish feed in different ways, depending on their build, their frame. Some might find it easier feeding off the bottom. I mean, it's been known that fish has wafted bait up off the deck to eat. So I guess by having the 2 different approaches, you kind of giving yourself more options.
Yeah, and it kind of winkles down to what's working. I know on that trip it was all working, but I mean, when I go to other places, it's a good way of gauging what to use as such. I tend to choose what I use as a hook bait depending on the situation I'm faced with. Like if I'm casting tight to trees, I know that there could be some sort of debris underneath the trees, leaf litter, sticks, twigs, etc. So I do tend to fish pop-ups on them sort of areas. If it's nice clean like gravel or silt, then I will tend to go for a wafter, something that's a bit more pinned to the deck where you know it's clean and your hook's not going to pick up anything. So
is that are you going to be a convert? You're going to be going every year to these pay lakes or what?
No, I mean, as nice as it was and as nice as it is to have that bit of luxury and get amongst some of the bigger ones, I still like the public stuff. I mean, it's the unknown, it's the adventure. You never know what you're going to catch. By all means, in previous trips, I've never had nothing to really shout home about. Like, I've got amongst them and I've caught loads of fish from public waters, but never anything massive like the sort of fish that you'd go to France for, like your 40s and your 50s. I've had loads of 30s from the public waters, some cracking fish from places that I never even dreamed that I'd even get a bite from, let alone actually catch a decent fish.
I'd argue they mean more.
They do. Yeah.
£30 from an unknown is better than a...
Oh yeah, by all means. Yeah. Although it was nice to get them big uns from the Pay Lake. I mean, I'll take a £20 weldy from a public water over a £50 from a Pay Lake. But so I've got a few more trips. Got a few trips lined up for the public water. I've got a trip to Belgium in September.
Nice.
Going back to a water that I had a little go on, trying to seek out some of the bigger ones there. A mirror from there would be nice, as it was predominantly common. So yeah, it's exciting to be planning them sort of trips again.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you, Nico.
Cheers, Tom.